It's Big Board Sports with Roger Weiland on 104.5 The Team.
Freddie Coleman joins us every Friday here on Big Board Sports, final weekend of the NFL's regular season. Freddie, good morning to you.
How was your Christmas, partner?
It was good, man. It was good. You know, pretty relaxing. One of those where I didn't really make a ton of stops other than right to the Weiland Ranch. So it was nice not to leave the den and just watch a lot. I watch a lot of football. I watch a lot of sports, which sometimes can be rare for me in a household with kids and everything else. I was able to figure that out this past weekend, which was great.
So when does the 30 for 30 at the Weiland Ranch happen? When does that happen?
That's a good question, Freddie. That's a good question. Hey, let me just open up with this whole Buffalo situation. What did you make of how Buffalo handled themselves as a franchise this past week?
Well, it's funny. We talked about this last week, didn't we? And Unfortunately, it was even worse than we could have imagined because you pretty much knew that Rex Ryan was on his last legs. There was no doubt about that. It didn't seem to matter what was going to happen. Towards the end of the season, they had made up their mind that they were going to start over with a new coach and maybe Johnny Lynn gets consideration. Who knows? So I guess we shouldn't be surprised because they seem really, really focused on just completing cutting ties with not just Rex Ryan, but also Rob Ryan. But we also talked about the financial implications when it comes to Tyrod Taylor, and then we saw his reaction to that. And that got to be even more bizarre than anybody could have anticipated. And this is what happens when you don't have the right kind of structure and you don't have the right kind of leadership with an organization like the Buffalo Bills. We know they're desperate to get back into the playoffs. They have not been there since Britney Spears was number one in the charts. So I clearly understand that. But when you are able to say to yourself, okay, we got to start over, we got to start over, we got to start over, we got to cut ties immediately, you're not going to find any continuity or any kind of structure that you're going to need in your organization. And then you're always going to be looking up at the Patriots and the Steelers and organizations like that, especially in the AFC.
Reports are also out there, Freddie, that Woody Johnson will bring back Todd Bowles. It'll be the Bills and the Jets' final game regular season this weekend at MetLife. Smart move, in your opinion?
Yes, I do think it's a smart move because not saying that Todd Bowles was a good coach this year. I mean, he did a lot of things that you say to yourself, okay, he maybe succumbed to the pressure or maybe didn't react well to the pressure. And I wonder how much of his health had to pay in that instance where he had that kind of situation that almost led him not to coach against the Patriots last weekend. But I think Woody Johnson is saying, all right, we got to give this guy another year because everything that could go wrong did go wrong. But he better be able to fix it. And Scott McCann, you're the general manager. You're going to do a better job of finding players, whether it's Jets organization, whether it's in the draft or in free agency, to make sure that this is going to work. You know they're going to move on past Ryan Fitzpatrick. Maybe they give Bryce Petty more of a shot, but they got to fix that offensive line. I think they have enough receivers with Eric Decker coming back, but they have to fix that offensive line and fix that secondary. They're not that far away, Roger, because we've seen in the National Football League, you can go from yuck to yay or yay to yuck pretty quickly. I mean, you look at the Oakland Raiders. 2 years ago, they were yuck. 2 years later, even though Derek Carr's injured, they're a yay football team. The Dallas Cowboys last year, they were yuck. Now they have the best record in the NFC. The Bengals last year, they were yay. Now they're yuck in the AFC. You can do that pretty quickly in the National Football League, so I think it's a smart move to give him at least one more year to see if he can fix what happened this year.
In addition to those teams, Freddie, how about the teams in the Super Bowl last year? You know what I mean? And you look at you look at where they're at now. It's crazy how quickly that can happen. But I want to shift gears here and ask you about Tony Romo. And the story here in itself has switched gears from Tony's not going to play and starting Mark Sanchez to now Tony Romo is going to get reps under center this Sunday. Do you think this is a smart move by the Dallas Cowboys in keeping him sharp or trying to sharpen that tool, or are they playing with fire?
It is the Jerry Jones move. This is what Jerry Jones wanted, and he knows this is the perfect opportunity for that to happen, where you get Tony Romo some reps under center. You're not threatening anybody. Dak Prescott is not going to be threatened. Even Tony Romo goes out there and throws for 3 touchdown passes. We know the first playoff game the Cowboys play at home that Dak Prescott is going to be the starting quarterback. I don't mind this move because there's clearly been a division of labor with the Dallas Cowboys. And I think the best thing that happened was Jason Garrett and not one player on that team tried to go down that fox with Jerry Jones. He put it out there that he would love to see Tony Romo out there at a certain point, or he could see a scenario in which Tony Romo was going to play quarterback. Nobody followed Jerry Jones down that. He recognized that but you know this is his decision. And I think Jason Garrett is on board with it, saying, okay, let's get Tony Romo in there. Let's get Mark Sanchez in there. We know we're going to have the best record in the NFC. Let's rest our guys. Then we give them a chance to give them a mental break. Then we get right back into the frame of mind we're going to need to get into the playoffs. I don't think this is going to upset or disrupt anything. And also, Jerry Jones wanted Tony Romo playing under his Christmas tree. He's going to get it this weekend, and it's not going to bother anything with the preparation or the mindset of the Dallas Cowboys.
We're talking with Freddie Coleman, Freddie and Fitz, ESPN Radio, with us every Friday, and can't thank Freddie enough for joining us each week in this time slot. Freddie, how do you think the Giants will play this out? Ben McAdoo says play to win the game. They don't want to lose twice to their rival Washington Redskins. They'd love to knock Washington out, and yet they can't improve their seed any more than it already is. They're locked in. What do you think McAdoo will do at quarterback? I know Eli Manning will start. Do you think he'll play him the whole game? How about Odell Beckham Jr.? Can't afford either one of those two players to get hurt with the playoffs right around the corner.
And Roger, you make a great point because I've heard a lot of that, but people have to realize this. In the NFL, everybody is beat up by this time of the year. Injuries are going to happen, and you can't play afraid. You can't play less than 100%. If you play in a half-hearted manner or you have a half-hearted attitude with your stars, then don't play Odell Beckham Jr. then. Don't just put him out there for a half and take him out. Don't put Eli Manning in there for a half and take him out. Maybe play them one series, treat it like a preseason game, then sit them down. But if you're going to play them, then just play them, because this is a playoff game for the New York Giants. And it's a playoff game for the Washington Redskins, because we know how they're going to have to play if they're going to try to get into the playoffs and hope that things break in their favor with what happens between Green Bay and Detroit later on that night. The Redskins know they need to win this game to put pressure, especially on the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. If you're the New York Giants, whatever you've been able to do, there's still some tweaking and fixing that has to be done. You can't do that on the practice field. You have to do that on the practice field leading into the game that you're going to play on Sunday. So if I'm the New York Giants and Ben McAdoo, I'm putting my guys out there and saying, go full bore, because this is what we're going to have to do in the playoffs. We're going to play this way and play these games on the road. I don't think this is the time to dial it back for fear that you're going to disrupt any rhythm or anything you need to do to get busy and get ready for the playoffs in which you're going to play each and every game on the road.
Freddie, you think New England will have the same approach in Miami?
Oh, you're going to be playing quarterback for them this weekend. I don't think there's any doubt about that, because they're going to have Brady out there for a couple of series, then Garoppolo's going to play the rest of the game. They don't worry that if they lose and the Raiders win, that the Raiders have the top seed, because New England believes they can go to anybody else's house and beat them if they have to play a championship game. And the one team that were not able to beat the Denver Broncos, they're not in the playoffs. Oakland doesn't have Derek Carr. The defense is still a little flimsy, even though it's gotten better. But New England's going to say, look, we're going to go out there and get our guys playing time. If we win, great. If we don't, so be it. Because we believe no matter who we play or where we play, we're going to go into their building and beat that team. They're going to treat this like a preseason game, then rest their guys, and then to get ready again, give them a break after the weekend, then to get ready for the playoffs. Believe me, they're clearly the best team in the AFC. The only team that can beat them are the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion, and that team has to go to New England to play them and not the other way around.
Freddie, before we let you go, I want to ask you a question a little bit off the beaten path. Earlier this week, we were able to get Chris Berman on our show for an incredible 18-minute interview, and he was just...
I saw that. That was great, by the way.
I was going to say, it picked up some national traction, because during the course of the interview, we asked him, how long are you going to continue to do what you do? And he insinuated and hinted, overtly that he was going to be pretty much taking a step back. We won't see him in the same role. I'm just curious, for a guy that works at ESPN on a daily basis, what has Chris Berman meant to that company, and how is he looked at and viewed in Bristol?
Well, I'll tell you this, and one of the fortunate things and one of the blessed things of working at that company is you get a chance to be around guys like Chris Berman, and I don't think there's any doubt he's a Mount Rushmore guy at ESPN, because there is no Sports Center, there's no ESPN Radio, there aren't plenty of other shows without guys like him, without men like him who were there at the beginning, and they didn't know what was going to happen. He even said, because I had a chance to read excerpts from that interview online, where he even said, I thought I was going to do this, you didn't know how cable was going to work out, and maybe go somewhere else and build my name there. No one could have anticipated that ESPN would go from where they were in 1979 to the behemoth that ESPN is right now, whether it's radio.com, whatever that is. So I clearly understand that if you enjoy what you're doing, and he made the point of saying, I'll be 62 next year, I'm not ready to walk away from this. And why would you want to walk away from this? We have a saying that they're going to have to drag us out by our bloody stumps for us to leave ESPN or ESPN Radio, because a great place to work. You leave when you decide that you want to leave, or maybe they make that decision for you. But you're not going to go to management and say, you know what, I'm ready to go. At a certain point, you'll say that, but not right now. And Chris Berman, to me, he still has miles to go before he can throw dirt on his career at ESPN. So I clearly understand where he's coming from when you're 61, 62 years of age. It's all you've done. You still enjoy doing that, and you don't want to walk away from that when you feel that you still have enough to give and more to give to the company that you've been synonymous with your whole career.
Yeah, well said, Freddie. And while I think his role may change moving forward, he strongly hinted that he will still have a role at ESPN.
Yeah, you don't just toss people like that. I know we're in a fluid business. I get it. And Roger, you and I both know this. We've seen so many friends of ours in other markets where they have to deal with cutbacks in places they worked at for 30, 40 years. All of a sudden, they're no longer having those jobs anymore. So we get it. We understand the business. But if you're in a position where they're not looking to cut you out, you're not going to bring that to the table, especially if you enjoy what you're doing. And we get to a certain point where our fastball is no longer 98. It's about 93, and you got to do guile. You got to use the curveball here and the slider there. But he still has miles on his fastball that he hasn't lost that, in my opinion. I'm sure other people are different. That's fine. But we're not talking about a guy that is at the end of his rope to the point that he needs to get him out of there. No. I think Chris Berman still has more to give, and whatever his role is going to be, he's going to flourish in that new role, ESPN, and still show exactly what Chris Berman has always been about. That's why we call him Boomer, and that's why we call him a Mount Rushmore guy at ESPN.
Freddie, you are the absolute best, man. We appreciate everything, and happy New Year to you and to your family, and look forward to next week when we get into the NFL playoffs.
No doubt about that. Have a great New Year. Got to get working at 30 for 30, the Roger Weiland Ranch stories for Christmas. We got to get that working. We're trying to show on ESPN for 30 for 30.
Thanks, Freddie. I'll bring that up at the next production meeting, all right?
Have a good New Year, gentlemen.
See you, man. Freddie Coleman with us here every Friday on Big Board Sports.